Okay. Hello. Welcome to Book Harlots. Come as you are chats. I'm AJ Norris.
I'm Aliza Mann.
And I'm Sage Spelling.
We are three friends talking and analyzing books. We're revisiting J.R. Ward's BDE, Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This is our first podcast / vlog, whatever you want to call it. In a few minutes, we'll get to Dark Lover, the first book in the series. But first off, we're going to share for a few minutes about how we got hooked on the BDB. And Sage, you go first.
Well, I actually started way after everybody, I think, reading the BDB books. I started a few years ago. I was actually sitting in Aliza Mann's car. We were on we used to work together, so we were on a smoke break, and this book starts coming on, and it was Jim Frangione's voice, and I was instantly hooked. I'm like, what are you listening to? She's like, girl, it's a BDB. And it was like, I found a whole new home, and I just started reading them and didn't stop. And that's my story.
Liza?
So I was helping a dear friend of mine who was actually had just had surgery. So I was over her house taking care of her, and she was in and out on pain meds. And at some point she woke up and she was like, "You need something to do." And I'm like, "I'm fine." She's like, "No, read this book." And she handed me Dark Lover. And it was before I started doing Kindles, before audio. Our kids were young, and I'm an old lady now, so that was some time ago. And I was supposed to be taking care of her, and I just totally got lost in Dark Lover. And from there, I just went on and on, and I don't think I ever really stopped. So.
Oh, no, we don't. So this is my first introduction I was at a bookstore, and I'm going through the bargain bin, and I don't know why one of these books was in a bargain bin, but it was Lover Avenged. I read at first I was attracted to the cover, so I'm like, oh, he's got purple eyes, that's cool. And then I read the blurb, and I'm like, oh yeah, vampires, I'm gonna read this. It sounded really intriguing, so I read that one first, and then I immediately had to go out and buy John and Hex's book, Lover Mine. And then I was like, well, okay, there wasn't any other books out after that yet. So I'm like, okay, I need to read the beginning. So then I went back and I read all the other books, probably in like a week or something. It was just, it's just, they're just awesome. So
yeah.
And this is history, and we just can't wait for the next one,
Oh.
So I'm going to read the blurb of Dark Lover. And there's actually two covers out. This is the original one here, the red one. It's actually really cool. And then this one, they updated the cover because when one of the books came out, The King, it had this guy on it. It was a different pose, but it had this guy on it, so they updated it. So the only purebred vampire left on the planet, and the leader of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, Wrath, has a score to settle with the slayers who killed his parents centuries ago. But when his most trusted fighter is killed, orphaning a half-breed daughter, unaware of her heritage and her fate, Wrath must put down his dagger and usher the beautiful female into another world. Racked with restlessness in her body that wasn't there before, Beth Randall is helpless against the dangerously sexy man who comes to her at night with shadows in his eyes. His tales of the brotherhood and blood frighten her, yet his touch ignites a dawning new hunger. Thirst, too, if you will. One.
Right.
One that threatens to come, consume them both. And then, of course, this book has many, many more characters than that, but we're going to move on to our discussion. So, we got together and we had some discussion points that we wanted to discuss, kind of analyze the book and our thoughts about it and things we would have wanted to see and didn't see and things like that. Yada, yada, yada goes on. So the first question was, what was your first impression of the world and the brothers? Who, either one of you can start.
You want to go, Sage?
You can go.
Okay, so I was kind of, bless you. I was kind of blown away because, and let me preface this by saying I'm a long time vampire lover, and like creature feature when I was like 7. I've always loved vampires, but I had never encountered vampires that sounded a lot more hip. Usually vampires have, they're kind of campy at times, I won't name a few of them that are campy, but like Eric, they have like this vampire persona. So when I met the brothers, they were very like interesting, because they sounded a lot like, rappers. They sounded a lot like, they were using the terms that we were using, and, just really unbelievably realistic. So the world was so easy for me to slip into, especially, it was current, and it felt like, they could have lived next door to me, so that, I think that's what got me. And of course, the way the characters were developed, the way the backstory kind of unfolded, it was just so unbelievably interesting. And I think a lot of people were like, wow, this is very relevant. It feels very real.
Right. Like they speak with vernacular. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to go, Sage, or?
Sure. Same with Aliza, they felt comfortable to me. So when I first started vampires, I would watch them with my mom. We'd watch the old Dracula movies, and to me, I never really found them as intriguing as Aliza just described. I'm like, oh, another vampire movie. It wasn't really nothing I found romantic. I found it like cool, murder mystery type thing. It wasn't never anything that I was intrigued with. Then I started picking up romance books with vampires, and starting going, oh, well, they could be, And then when I listened to their world, and it was the perfect balance of that sexy vampire, but at the same time, they were like real people. We listened to the same music. We talk the same, we have the same like fashion we want the same fashion clothes and labels, and it just felt natural, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for in a vampire boyfriend. So yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just have to say the same thing. They were just so real to me, and I like the fact that they weren't undead. Like, they weren't cold, they were born. They were not immortal. They lived a long time, but not immortal. And I thought it was more interesting. And, they had their own society and their own government, as you will, with monarchy, but their own, just their own way of life. Their religion is different. It was just a really good world building for me. And even though I picked it up with like, what is it, the 5th book or something, 5th or 6th book, it was like, I didn't feel like it was easy to get invested in the world, even though I didn't even know these characters yet. And it was just really interesting to me, and I just fell in love with them. And who doesn't like a mohawked vampire? But I just really liked it. I just thought they were fun, and they were funny, and they would get on each other's nerves and tell each other to fuck off and stuff like that. And it was just very real. So I guess we all kind of in agreement with that. So you guys have any last thoughts on that, on the world and the others?
I think that covers it. I do believe It's something about the brothers and the way they're built, the way they interact with women. Those types of things are always going to be a big draw. If you're looking for like alpha type males who, so I that would be my parting thought. They were so hot that, you kind of had to like them.
Yeah. But I like that there's a couple of the characters that are betas. So I think there's a good mix of that. So,
yeah,
because, Fury is more of a beta, John Matthews more of a beta, I would say. Not that they aren't strong and they're not pushovers, but they're not like Wrath's definitely alpha for sure.
I think the personalities that we got to know first were all alpha. So we got Wrath and V and
Butch too a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the book. And Rage, they were definite. It was just, those first initial characters. We had Fury in there, but he was not as prevalent on the page. So, those first characters that I was introduced to, I got to see that whole alpha thing. And then you're right, it is nice to see the betas come out a little bit. Yeah.
As well as I think what I really enjoyed too is seeing an alpha hero, but they were still like, most of them had disabilities, right? So Fury without the leg, Wrath with the seeing, John with no voice. I liked seeing that type of diversity in there too, as well. So that was great.
Yeah. That was really. I mean, again, that's part of the reason that it felt so real,
Right. Mm-hmm. Fury with his drug addiction and,
right.
Yeah. He's a savior complex, but
a little bit.
Yeah. So when we get into Dark Mother, one of the characters that this really probably the main antagonist, even though there is, the Lessening Society and the undead humans that, are hunting the vampire. We had introduction of Havers, the species healer, doctor. But he's kind of a snob. So it was like, but at the same time, you almost feel sorry for him because he lost his Shellen, right? And then he starved because he's trying to come up with a cure for having to feed. He wants to, he's just ridiculous. Like he's in, going to come up with some sort of not synthetic blood, but he can't take it from a tube, so you have to actually just take it right from the source. So he started that, and but another thing, but then he did something really terrible, and he became an antagonist. Do you want to talk about what he did, Aliza?
So he had a couple of things that he, that led him down that path. And we're going to try not to do like super spoilers, but, it is the first book of the series. So hopefully, folks have read this one. But he was defending his sister. He did see her, what he viewed as her being rejected by the king. And in their society, if you are rejected by a male that you are betrothed to, you end up, almost being devalued as a female. And, so I get why he was angry. So he probably, normal folks probably would have had a conversation. Like, you did this to my sister. But instead of doing that, he went to our friend Z and asked him to kill Wrath. And, that probably wasn't the best idea. And then to compound matters, he took it a step further and decided to give their address to Darius's home to the head lesser, the four lesser in the Lessening Society. So that naturally led people to kind of view him in a way. First, he's snobby. Second, he's a traitor to the king, treasonous. and he is irrational. He did a couple of things to Marissa too. He didn't ask her, what was going on. He kind of just made assumptions, because meanwhile she was like hot to try for Butch, so she was actually like, hey, I'm good, So in that, he became the antagonist. But when you go back around and see kind of all the things that he's done, you kind of begin to understand him. So that led us to say, does he deserve additional consideration that maybe we didn't give him in the beginning when we were first reading this series? So I know Sage has some thoughts on this as well. So I'll shut up and give you a chance to kind of talk about it too.
Well, I mean, just like any culture or any society like ours, like a lot of times older brothers are going to do what they want you to do to protect their sister. And if someone dishonors their sister, they're going to go and, teach this guy a lesson. But in his situation, the person he would teach a lesson was the king, right? And he was just frustrated, I think, with his arrogance, the fact that he wasn't leading his people, that he's let his sister on 300 years. Like, how long was she his Shellen, right?
Right.
So he let her on and played mind games with her, and he would watch his sister come back after she would feed Wrath, and like lock herself up in her room and cry and be all depressed. And, he was just feeling like he needed to protect his family. To give the address to the Four Lesser was a little extreme. And then even to
and how did you do that without getting killed? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he did, like, he found the right Four Lesser, I think, because that one knew, later on we learned that they're not as smart as this one, but this one was like, if I can give the Omega the king, I'm tight, I'm good. And it just worked out that way. But yeah, I feel like he deserves a happily ever after. I feel sorry for him. I want him to have his story.
I mean, and as his story progressed, you see more that he can be altruistic. He can be a good person. He's just dealing with all the baggage of being a member of the Glimera, and they're told, hey, if you don't do this and this and this, you don't behave in this and this and this way, then you're less than. And so it's like, but the other thing is, like, maybe he should have been punished, but at the same time, he may have caused, the queen to get abducted, but he also saved Wrath's life. So it's kind of like, does one negate the other? I don't know. Maybe it does.
But I think his ace in his pocket is he's like the only doctor.
Right. At least in this area, right.
He's got that, like, you need me.
It was job security for sure. But I just feel like, I think he should have been punished. I do. I think, in a lot of ways, he was treasonous. He definitely betrayed his kind, especially, with all the things that the Lessers do to vampires. And he even treats them after, like, all of that happens to them. So he's fully aware of what the Lessers mean to his society, and he chose to do it. So definitely punish him. But now that we've gotten to know him, I feel like an HEA wouldn't be a bad thing. I think there are some people who started out with, later in the series, that started out with, they weren't exactly wholesome characters, right? So they got a happily ever after, and we'll talk about them later. I know we said we were saying, but
it's hard not to go to the other books because they're fresher.
Right. So yeah, he definitely. I think at this point now, with so many, so much time having passed, I definitely think he deserves it at this point.
Yeah, and he does treat a lot of patients that don't have money, course, they get, the shit rooms, and they don't get the 5-star treatment that the other clients do, but
Very much.
patients do, but it is, but I also, one of the things I do want to say, and then we can move on to the next question, was that I like the fact that he was accepting, his death sentence, basically. He said, I know I don't deserve it, and if you kill me, I'm resolved to accept that fate. So at least he had a backbone when it came to that. So
is it a backbone because he was accepting of his fate because he tried to kill the king? Yeah. Or is it because maybe he wants to die? Like, did he do this partly because he was done wanting to live?
You think he's suicidal? I don't know if I would say he was suicidal, but that's an interesting thought.
I think he was definitely malnourished, right? So when you are not eating well, anyone can have like, surely he had some low blood sugar moments, So I'm wondering if, that influenced some of the decisions that we made, because obviously he wasn't thinking rationally.
No.
Yeah.
So our next point was the Zadist mistreated in this book, and how do we feel about that? So a little background was that he, he's considered, like, people kind of fear him because his past, and he was a blood slave and all these things, which you don't actually find out till later, I think, but but it was like, and then the other point, and so he, they're always, everybody's just like, oh, you have to be careful around him. You can't, can't love him. You can't let your guard down. And one of my favorite, kind of scenes from the book, just that kind of summed him up, because you kind of think he's this really bad person, and then I kind of had this, like, I feel sorry for a moment when he accidentally got locked in the pantry with Beth, and she was afraid of him based on, well, she had one experience with him, but he did back off during that experience when he first met her. When she first came in contact with him, he kind of scared her. But I think she kind of was more listening to other people's opinions than taking her own opinion into consideration. And she's kind of backing off and kind of getting scared. And probably I can see her kind of doing this kind of number. And he says, he's just like, what's the matter? Like, I'm not a savage. And I just thought that was very telling. So, I think he was mistreated.
Yeah, he definitely was. So first on the Beth thing, like, she was so, like, fierce at times, right? She was fierce when she was in the alley being attacked. She kind of stood up to her attacker, right? And then when she was, defending Wrath and he was on the ground, she was ferocious, right? She was not kind of cast, right? She was not cast as a chick that would be like, oh my God, you're in the closet with me. And it was more surprising, this time around that we're kind of looking at it with new eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
But that was right. That was really, like, I was like, wait a minute, girl, you, like, super strong, and I would have expected her, not that I would have expected her to, stay if she felt uncomfortable. I would have expected her to not shriek away. And she kind of did that, and he's kind of like, what you doing? Like, I ain't even, like, I just walked in. I didn't know you were in here.
Yeah.
So that's one. But the other thing was the way it was so easy for people to accept that he would do something wrong. I know they made it evident in that story that he had been through some stuff. They made it evident that he had the tats on his face, which B has tats on his face too. So, I get that he had been through some things, and I get that he, at times could be cold, but at that point in their relationship with him, they should have known to trust him by now, right? And then they wouldn't even believe Fury when he vouched for him. Like,
right.
like, what did Fury do? Like, what do you guys? So it was very irrational at times the way they treated him, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So people are probably going to have all kinds of, thoughts on this, but it felt bad to me knowing all I know about Z right now. And even I think the most jarring moment was when he said, "I'm not a savage," so it's just messy.
Agreed. And they just, if he's such a savage, if he is a murderer, if you think that he killed those hookers after he drank their blood, why was he on the King's Guard? Why was he a brother? If he is not trustworthy, if they automatically assume that he would kill the king, why would he be part of the part of the Black Dagger Brotherhood? Why would he be? Because there's a certain type of trust, right? You have to trust these men to not only protect the civilians of their race, but and also protect their king and each other. If there's no trust, if you're gonna think that he's just gonna kill just because he felt like it that day, then something's off.
With
him. No, go ahead.
No, you go. I talk a lot.
No, it's okay. I was going to say something about him that showed that side, that was when he sang at the ceremony for Wrath and Beth. And something about the way she describes his voice and the feeling that they got from him really showed that there is so much dimension to him in that. And then as well as at the very end when Beth comes out of Wrath's room and they're all sitting outside of his room and he was the only one awake. The way he was being protective and the kindness in his voice, he is not that person they tried to paint him out to be.
Right.
And it's just, I really felt bad. He's one of my favorites though. So it really took it personal after reading his story to go back and read how they treated him in the first book. It really was personal to me. Like, hey, don't do that to him.
Is it that we love him now too? Is it that, and AJ, you probably want to take that one further. Is it that we know so much more about him now than we did then? Or
I was just going to say that last scene where she comes out of the hospital room and, he's there, he's awake, he's basically told her what's up. He told her this is my job. This is who I am, basically telling her I am not this person that they think that I am, so,
right.
In his own way. He has his own way of saying it, but, so.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Z?
Just thinking back, I said a minute ago that it's probably that we love him a lot more now. But even then, I think I remember going, whoa, why are they, kind of like, what the fuck, don't do that. That's kind of me.
Yeah. But I think we weren't as attached to him then. So it was kind of like, well, why are they doing that? But it wasn't like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know him intimately then. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So the next thing was Butch and Marissa. So Marissa was, just to give background for people who haven't read these books, but that Marissa was Wrath's long-suffering Shellen. Unrequited love. Well, he never loved her and she doesn't love him either. But she accepted who she was and this and that. So Butch meets Marissa. Of course, we know that they were sparks flew. There's more to that. We'll get it. That's kind of part of the next question. But she was thirsty. And but it was like his first inkling that there's just something really wrong with these people. Not that there's anything wrong with them, they're vampires, but Marissa is just dematerializes in front of Butch. Like he's holding her hand and she just disappears on him. And he just was like, shit. And then Beth comes running and was like, what's wrong? You know, so, comments on that. I thought his reaction actually was a little tame. I think because he kind of knew.
I think he kind of knew something. Like, I think he knew that something wasn't, like, they had a lot of money, you know, and I think he knew that it went beyond kind of just being a drug dealer, you know what I mean, and that kind of thing. I feel like he had an inkling that something wasn't all the way kosher with the brothers. But then when she dematerialized in his arms, I was actually surprised that she did that, because usually they're really careful around humans. But I think maybe she was thinking, oh, well, he's in the mansion, surely he's okay, you know?
Right.
But
I don't think she thought about it. She's just being,
yeah, I probably would have fainted. I don't know how much on his feet at the end of that thing. He was like, you know, he kind of was like, what the fuck, scrambled away. But I would have thought, you know, he would have released lubricants all over the place or something, because that, you know, like, that's just a lot to take in at one time.
Short circuit.
Right, exactly.
So, Sage, do you have any thoughts on it?
So I just started thinking, I don't want to give too many spoilers because we're going to read his book later. But because there is a genetic connection to them, maybe in the back of his mind, or in some way he kind of didn't freak out because it was something, it was like an instinct for him. Or does that think I'm reaching too far? But I was just as you were explaining it, that thought popped in my head.
I do. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think he, it's like he felt instantly like he belonged there, and he hadn't belonged anywhere else. And so he was, I think, more accepting of it because he didn't even freak out as much, I think, as Beth did. You know, I think he wanted to belong to this world. He just thought they were just absolutely the coolest dudes. He just thought they were cool. Just plain and simple. No, you know, no reasonable explanation to think that. He just thought it, subconsciously or otherwise. But so that kind of leads you to how Beth and Marissa reacted to their mates. Were they because they were fated, or is it because they're just more animalistic because they're vampire? Because they were both like hot to trot. And Marissa seemed like she did things out of character because of it.
God.
Right. First is real, right, as Aliza would say.
Oh, Jesus. So I was really surprised. Okay, I was surprised by both of them, but I was really surprised by Beth, because she was just like, you know, first she had been attacked in the alley a couple days beforehand, but and I think she kind of knew who he was because she'd seen him in the courtyard. He wiped her memory, but I felt like there was some familiarity there for her. But she was like, touch me. Like, don't back away. Come forward. And I'm like, that is aggressive, girl. And she...
okay, yeah, right. I thought that Marissa was the same way. I thought she was more aggressive.
Well, I thought
Marissa, yeah, I believe for her type of personality, she was very forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marissa was extremely forward. Maybe Beth was more tame because she had just been attacked, but you know, and they went through, you know. Oh, sorry, guys.
Okay.
Am I back? It was and that was, I heated up the screen, but they were so like over the top lusty. Like they were like, I need you right now. And Marissa, we were on her. She literally climbed on that man's chest, and I have never
broke a chair.
I have never
Right.
Like, they didn't know each other like a few minutes. She got all up on this. I said, girl, okay, girl, well, get it then, thirsty. So, yeah, they were for real
So
thirsty.
funny. That was hilarious. Crack. Chair breaks.
Oh, my God. Was
Best
it him
scene
or
ever.
was it her? I think it was him.
It was him. It was him because he was, because she was on top of him. He was gripping the armrest so tight.
Yeah. And they fell on the floor. Oh my God. Yeah, they were like. So I do believe, and I've been thinking about this because we talked about this a couple of days ago. Whether it was the animalistic side of being a vampire or whether it was actually that, that's their one true mate. And I really am leaning towards that's their one true mate because Marissa did not behave that way with Raph. She was actually really timid. When, for 300 years that she had been his wife. I don't know how she did that. I would have tripped out on him long before he found Beth, because you're just not going to have me, this shrieking Violet up here waiting on you to come around and be my husband, be my Hellraiser.
And there's been some, and not to go into other books or anything, but some indication that once you meet that true mate, they bring things out in you that were dormant. And, we can make, that could be a common theme, question every book, because, they're just pointing out the different reasons, because it happened in, it happened with Hex, it happened with Hex doesn't introduce it as revenge, but it happened with him. It happened with so many that they bring out the thing, Rage is Beast, it's calmed by Mary. There's so many things that we'll find out, and that's in the next book, but that are, I think it's probably,
I agree. I agree that it's fated.
That's their shit. That's their mate. That's all.
That's my boo.
Yep.
Right. And I agree that it's fated because if you go back to Beth, this dude, she had like you said, she had just gotten attacked, and then you have Butch hitting on her. Right, all this trying to take her out. So if she was really just going through the change, and that's why that she was starting to have sexual desire, then it wouldn't have just been Raph. But I think that because he was her mate, instantly, she became completely thirsty on sight.
Fucking hot.
On sight. When she was the door and was like, touch me.
And he was in her. It wasn't like he ran into her on the street, they met in a club. He was in her, on her balcony. And
I know, that's kind of creepy.
It's almost
like, boy,
but you look like that, honey. You can
normal circumstances. This is not the way to go.
Right. In real life, in IRL, I would never recommend that you tell a dude to show up on your balcony to touch you. But in this, I totally agree with that. I'm not saying they shouldn't be thirsty for these guys because they are their true mate. But it was something to read. I was like, whoa, girl, slow down, honey. Take a moment. But no, there was none of the break.
So now we come to the controversial topic.
What?
Butch.
I'm sorry, I act like I don't know. What is it, girl?
And vicious, of course, obviously the romance, the Butch. I will say that Butch, and there's examples where he actually literally says, I'm heterosexual. There's a passage where he actually uses that word, hetero, straight up. But he does love V. And they do cuddle.
He does.
That.
They legit cuddle.
Purpose. So, does it count?
No, they legit cuddle. One.
Yes.
And then two, that scene where I can't remember who walked in the room with them. Was it Fury? While they were getting ready for the day with a towel around their waist and Yellow was shaving.
I thought it was Tor. No?
Maybe it was.
It might have been.
I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember either.
But
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
would you put it, let's be honest now, would you put it past, not to say that it was forced, but it was something that would happen between them because they were feeling each other in that moment and it just happened? And Butch freaked out about it. Do you think afterwards, V would take it out of his memory?
No, I don't think he would disrespect him that way.
But he did it to Jane.
Uh-oh.
Because he has to.
And
I'm crazy.
But didn't he do it to Jane? He took the memory from Jane, and maybe he had a reason or a dream or something that made him do it.
Yeah, but that was before
he
she was accepted into the world. Like Butch had already been accepted.
He wasn't accepted yet. I don't think he was accepted until he was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was. So Raph. No, Raph.
Because they told him, like, you either stay here or you die. So there was that.
Right. So he hadn't, like, gotten approval for him to be there.
Yeah, they hadn't given him the approval yet.
But I'm going to say this. And, I do, it's never been, I don't recall it being stated that Butch could be polyamorous or, any gender defining role for V, but I've always taken him to be fluid. I've always taken him to, whoever he's attracted to, whoever he is in love with at the moment, or whoever he's taken with, he's just taken with them, so
but here's the point and this is bringing up another book, but
don't bring up another book. We agreed.
I know. Okay.
I'll go with you.
But my point. Okay. So my point was there is a scene. I'm not gonna say what book it is, where he has sex with somebody else, and V gets very vehemently jealous, and so it's like if he had him himself already, then why get jealous about it? He'd already done hit that.
Because he's possessive.
No,
he's
possessive all the time.
With
he's still him. He's not now. No, he's not now.
He still was recently. Yeah. Really recent. He was.
Recently, he was
like
2 or 3 books ago.
Yeah, he's got.
He's protective of him.
No.
It's the same thing as like wanting to get in his pants. Maybe he does, but Butch doesn't. He knows Butch is straight. He's not. He knows. He don't play with him.
I don't think it's that he's. I don't think he thinks that he's. Not, I don't see. This is where I think you're.
They have a tight relationship. I just.
Right, but I think it's not that if he's respecting him now, it's because of his relationship with
Jane.
Marissa. So I don't think.
To me,
I don't think at the time Marissa. What we're talking about, this scene we're talking about, he had met Marissa for like 5 minutes. Right, so to V, she's not his mate, they didn't really know anything. So I could see him doing something like this now. Not now.
If it was consensual, why scrub Butch's memory then?
Because
we have to talk about it.
Because sometimes when you're really attracted to people, boys and girls, and you have a little bit to. Not like, forcibly, but sometimes drinks color.
No.
You're dead.
I mean, he drinks, not
come out.
100%. Yeah, he's bi, but
yes, I'm gonna say Butch is
because who would top and who would
everything.
Butch is not gonna bottom.
Right.
Yeah, he's not. Right. He's not going to bottom. So who bottom?
He isn't. Or you think Butch isn't?
No, I think they're both alphas. Okay. I don't think that. Who would bottom in that scenario then?
I think V can be trade. Not trade. I think he can be either bottom or top.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
First.
All right.
I think he does whatever V wants You know, I really do, and I love that about him.
And who's to say?
No, I love
that
about
boys
him,
weren't involved instead?
I don't like to think that he would do something like Butch, because I don't think Butch would consent to that. I just don't. I mean, maybe, but I just don't see it. I know that they're really good friends, and he doesn't mind hugging him and, you know,
I
him.
think it was that one. It's been a couple of times where V has exhibited possessive tendencies. Right. Now, when I was reading Dark Lover the first time, and, you know, I read in order, right? So when I was reading Dark Lover the first time, I did not have these thoughts of sexual tension. When you open the next, no, and it wasn't even, it was in the same book. He said, if I was killing you, cop, you would know, you remember?
That's the next book, yeah.
Oh, was it the beginning? Okay, I'm sorry. But I mean, you know, like it was kind of like, oh, baby. You know, and that tone that he has when he's like,
you know it.
Thing, you know, like V does a thing, and I feel the thing off the page. I'm like, okay, V.
I didn't really think about that as being suggestive, but yeah, you're right. It is. It's suggestive.
And you know, and I probably went far, but you know, reading these books again, and I've read them again and again, but before I don't think I was analytically reading them, and now that I'm analytically reading them, them waking up cuddling. It's a lot, and you know, and I love it. I wish there was something. I think that's what it is. I'm wishing there was something between. And I'm gonna go a step further and say that until I read this book again, Marissa was not one of my favorite people, and I really want to say that might have been because I've been shipping Butch. I've been shipping V and Butch for years, and I didn't know. And I just want them to be together forever. And that's probably not going to happen because, you know, Marissa and Jane, I know. But I think that's my thing. I think I'm shipping them. I want them to have, like, a relationship.
They do.
I said what I said.
It's emotionally intimate. That's for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
It's emotionally intimate, but at the same time, there are moments where I feel like either of them, if they were not with their mates, they might cross that line. But I think because of their mates, they have not. There is this energy between them that it's like there. It's like if they were a guy and a girl and they were best friends, this would be like, yeah, they probably could have, or you know what I mean. But like I feel like, because that they're we're kind of saying no, he's saying he's not his type, but I feel like the chemistry is there. Do you know what I mean?
Chemistry is definitely there. And the thing is, if someone tells me what their gender is, I'm going to believe them. Right. So he said he's heterosexual male. I'm going to see him as cis het male. Right. And that's, you know, that is who he is. But this intimacy that they have is very, very intimate. I mean, I've got best friends, right? But their relationship is more. And I feel like the possessiveness that V exhibits from time to time, at times, I feel like Butch wouldn't be who he is without V at his side. Like, I feel like Butch would lay his life down for V.
Oh, and vice versa. And they are, you know, the yin and the yang. So that's for sure.
Yeah. So, and that can happen with best friends, but the intimacy level is just slightly different. And I want them to be together. I want them to be together like I wanted the couple on Moonlighting to be together. I want them to be together like peanut butter and jelly. I want them to be together. So maybe one day I want them to be together. It's amazing. I love their relationship.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're awesome.
And I'm off my soapbox.
But and also, you know, the vampires are a little more animalistic. So he is possessive of him. He is protective of him, and So there's a little bit of that too that I think plays into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another thought, but it kind of left my brain. So there's
I
that.
do want to say, as people start watching this, if there are thoughts, please put them below the video so we can continue these discussions, because it does evolve, and we're just giving our opinions, but please, by all means, share how you feel about different things that we're discussing, or if there's something else that we didn't discuss, feel free to add.
Yeah, and they're bros for life. But Butch bonded to Jane, or not Butch. V bonded to Jane too. So
What?
bonded to Butch. So
yes.
there's a little, so there's that. So they're, he's not his one true love. They're best bros, and maybe it could have been more in a different lifetime, a different whatever, but this lifetime.
Or that because they're like light and dark, right? Because of that prophecy. I mean, maybe that link between them is more because of that. Yeah, because like one of you guys just mentioned yin and yang, and maybe that is what they are, right? I mean, it just felt that connection between them is so
That's
real
for sure. It's tangible,
right? Yeah. It's really real, so it makes you question it. And just knowing who V was in the beginning, him doing that, I just sometimes it was still I'm not gonna say that he didn't do it and take the memory away. I still think it's a possibility. He wouldn't do it now. He would never do it now. But that first night.
Okay, we need to move on from this, because this is a discussion that could go on for days.
But okay, I'm done.
Okay. We can always take it later when we read V's and Butch's books. So that'll come up for sure. So the next thing was the Darius effect. So in this book, at the beginning, Darius dies, which is Beth's sire. And at the end of the book, he is granted the ability to come back and have life anew. And there's a question about, did he deserve it? Did he not deserve it? What makes him more deserving than somebody else? The things that, the scribe virgin did mention was that he was a strong warrior. He didn't question her. He never asked her for shit. And so she respected him, and she loved him. Not that she doesn't love all her, children, but he deserved it because he died in such an odd, awful, stupid way. You're car bomb. It's like, it's not even honorable. And that's what she said. She's like, I want him to live, to have an honorable life, like to finish what he started, because his life got cut short and it wasn't fair. Life's not fair, but, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like he was deserving of it. And, he's a badass. He was a badass warrior who deserved more because of the sacrifices he had already made for the race. So, you get, because scribe virgin will look at past sacrifices, and that's in the next book. She does do that for a past sacrifice. She does a favor for that specific reason. So we'll get into more of that. And I think she had a little crush on him. She kisses him.
Yes. The kiss was the thing that kind of cinched it when she, and he said he had felt that kiss before, so I'm like,
no, he said he felt his molecules breaking apart before, not the kiss.
I think he said, I'll have to double check that. It was right at the end. So yes, go ahead, fact check me. But my thoughts are, I do love Darius. I loved him, like when I first met him. He was really interesting. So I love him. So I think that, reincarnation is not a bad thing. I appreciated it. My thing was, she was so uneven at times in who she granted favors to. like, and I guess everybody is flawed, right? But she's like the scribe virgin. So she shouldn't be as flawed as we are and say, oh, I'm going to sit my favorite people back. So I think that kind of shook me a little bit that, there are people, there had to have been others that were equally as deserving.
To do things for other people, not just him. We just didn't see it.
Well, I think we are. Maybe she did. I just never felt like she was benevolent. I'm gonna leave the scribe virgin alone.
This is what I think about her. I think that it's like, and maybe I'm using this, phrase wrong, but it's like, you've heard that phrase where they say, you can't see the forest for the trees. And I feel like she's the opposite. She can't see the trees for the forest. So she sees the big picture, but she doesn't see all the little things that make it up. And so sometimes people get overlooked or they get snubbed, and it's not intentional. It's just how she views the world, the universe.
Yeah. And I can get that about her. I just, I do believe that she was motivated by other factors than just him being deserving. Like I believe that she kind of had a little crush on him. Now, she set him free, right? So he's not in the fade with her. And that's not how the fade works anyway, but she did set him free. She did send him back onto the world. So because I know all the other things, so I was really happy that she did that. But I just feel like she was motivated differently. And maybe that's something I can't see because it wasn't on page, but I would have liked the rationale behind it.
So this was like the passage, the very end, where his molecules, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, so let me read it. It says, I give you life anew, Darius Marklon. May you find what you seek in this incarnation. She pressed his lips to his, and he felt the same shock he had when he died. All his molecules exploding, his body splintering into air, his soul set free and soaring. So I feel like she's talking about, or JR, the author, is talking about his molecules exploding. That was, he felt the shock, but the shock wasn't from the kiss. The shock was from, starting the explosion of molecules. So
yeah, I felt like she was with him when he died. And that, that might just be my interpretation from my religion thing. Like, you're never alone when you pass away and all of that stuff. But so I didn't interpret it exactly the way that you did. But I've seen other people die in the series, and they sometimes don't get no warm, fuzzy feelings. That's what I'm saying.
That's a few more.
What if the reason why she brought Darius back in the way she did, not to maybe not to just because of it's Darius, though we love him, and she says she wishes sometimes that he was king instead of Brad. But what if it was because she wanted to add that layer of what he ends up bringing into, so minus the spoilers, but what he ends up bringing, what he becomes later, because she doesn't really make him Darius, and we know that. What she wanted to weave that element into their lives. Could that possibly be a reason why she would do that? Because, sometimes we talk about she is a god, right? Or a type of god. What if it was her way of kind of just throwing a curveball and see how things go, right?
Yeah, and it could be that. It could be, it could just be that sometimes she can be biased a little.
Could be.
I have some thoughts, but I'll reserve it for the next book when we find out more.
Yeah. And I can talk about all my theories.
Are we done with Darius though? Because I did have one thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I want to see his story though. I want to see his past story. Yeah. So I would. And someone said that J.R. Ward did say that she was something that she was looking at doing, and I so want to hear that story because getting from his journals later, I I would love to get his full on love story.
Did you watch her live thing she had yesterday? I'm just going to mention this real quickly.
No, I didn't get a chance to. I was going to look at it tonight.
The Jackal having Darius in it. So obviously it's a flashback of some sorts, but I thought that was interesting, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I don't know if it'll be a love story, but that you want, but she did say that in her live stream she had on Facebook yesterday.
So I missed the live chat, and I'm gonna
watch it. Yeah, I didn't watch it live. I watched it later. Yeah,
because normally you guys go, "Hey." Nobody did that for me.
I didn't see it until like later, and I was like, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, it's time to go to bed.
Yes, I watched it like 11:30 or something, but yeah,
it was late.
You said it was late, and you guys didn't want to disturb me in my beauty sleep because I need all I can do.
She was having like technical difficulties, so it was kind of irritating to actually listen to. It was fine, but it wasn't her fault. It was just what was going on with her internet and stuff, and the way that normally they did it in a different way, and she was using a different mechanism for doing it, and so it was not ideal because they're social distancing, so she didn't have her people around her. She was by herself, and they were trying to make it.
Yeah.
So, but moving on.
Always a challenge. So
you guys have any?
I'll listen to it though. I will.
Thoughts? What are things in this book that you didn't like?
In Dark Lover.
Yeah, sorry.
Bless you.
Actually, so.
I don't know. You go first on that one. I
think we touched points on like all the few things that irritated me, which were like the Z thing and how he was treated, Havard. We still haven't decided what is his name.
Havers. I think it's
I always say Havers. I don't know.
Havers.
I don't remember what she said.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like I wanted more of Butch and Marissa. I just did. I don't know. I just did. I like the scene she's sucking on his finger.
I think you are he's one of one of your favorite characters, just like they're J.R. Ward's one favorite characters, I think, because they're always there.
And Marissa has more conflicts than she gives out, and I wish we would see more of that, because I think she's more complex, and on the surface she looks like she's flighty and all this stuff, but yet now she's not really. She's very together and very loving and open person and generous. And
I do like her. Yeah, I do like her growth, and like later on when we read more of the books, we can talk more about that. But I do like how she's in the beginning she's at basically Raph's beck and call. She was starving and didn't want to call him because she just didn't. She had that such low self-esteem. I do like the strength that she has at the end, and I do enjoy watching the growth that she has as the story progresses. So
like a princess, a queen, so to speak.
Yeah,
and he had
technically was the queen.
Exactly.
Well, she never lived with him.
She didn't live with him, yeah. She didn't rule. He didn't rule, so she didn't have any role. Yeah, she was really a nothing, unfortunately.
She's like, let's be honest though, she's like the Catherine of Henry. She's like Henry VIII's Catherine. She was
God. Catherine of Aragon, did you go down that path?
She was
a bit, but I mean, he did. They sired a princess, Princess Mary. So it's a little different, and I think Henry VIII kind of loved Catherine. He was just beguiled with our friend Anne Boleyn. So I see it a little differently. I see it like, I was just no Anne Boleyn. There would not have been a fictional character. Right. But if there were no Anne Boleyn, there wouldn't have been 5 other wives. I think he would have lived cheating on poor Catherine for all the days of their life.
Yeah,
but Anne did some things. Maybe when we're done with Black Dagger Brotherhood in like 75 years, we visit Henry VIII and all of his wives. I personally would love that journey. But anyway, so you asked what we didn't like, and I think one of the things that I didn't like was predominantly the way they treated Z, and I also could have seen a little bit more of Darius before he bit.
I would have liked to have gotten to know him slightly more. I know it's hard to like you get invested in characters and then they get killed off. It sucks.
Right.
But because he was complex in the very little that he was on the page. You know, he was sad, but also at the same time, you get the sense that he was resolved that he was going to die young. He knew it. He wrote that letter to Wrath about that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
if you outlive me, please take care of my daughter and you can have Fritz in the house, just do what, just do me this solid.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed, and as time has progressed, we're not going to go into the other books, but seeing all the things that he did, like you mentioned earlier, she described Virgin was so appreciative of everything that he did for the race. But seeing it in action, all the things that, like, he did so much, and we can't,
I would like to have seen him fight.
Yes, it was kind of. I'm glad. I don't know. I kind of wanted her to George R.R. Martin it. I wanted to know him like I knew Ned, and I wanted, I wanted to be, now I want that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, because we wouldn't be as mad because at the end of the book, she brings him back. Right.
True.
So
true,
even if we would have been really angry that we got to know him and she would take him away, but she would gift us with him at the end of the book. So she
and I
could
want
have
to know what the parallels are between him and his new life, like his, who he became, because were they a lot alike? It's just that it's not as noticeable because he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Or his personality is strong as they would have Darius's, So I don't know,
So that's my thing. That's what I really wish I could have seen. And there's, that it can be fixed with like a prequel, or something like that. So, I would hope that we could get one. But, I think that was probably the thing that when I closed the book, that time and the first time I read it and this last time, I was like, dang, I wish I knew more about Darius. That would have been really great.
Right. So, please, comments, questions, suggestions.
I wanted to see Butch and B fight like this fight. Okay, that's it.
They will never do that.
I know, but in the beginning they were close. So anyway, I wanted to see that. It's kind of like, mud wrestling or something. I don't know. They could have had some mud. They could have been naked. It could have. Anyway,
mud wrestling, naked mud wrestling.
I'm asking.
Go there.
I'm here for it.
Throw it out there. First, it might happen. You just never know.
You never know. I will not hang up my wish list.
So next time we are going to be reading this one. So if you guys at home want to read
along with us,
have discussions, and maybe post some questions. We love to discuss things. So because we are obsessed with these books.
It's ridiculous. All we do is talk about it.
If you're not, you are missing out. So please join us next time. We had so much fun. I know we could talk about this book till forever. I mean, we have We could go on for hours, but we are, I guess that's it. So anything else?
Nope.
I think we're good. I think we need to
joining.
stop before we continue going.
Right. It's going to happen. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.